Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how we can use the API to verify email addresses. We're going to verify two types of addresses. First, we'll verify individual addresses, and then we'll verify a file. How can we do this? It's very simple. The first thing you need to do is log into the private platform, go to the API section, and create a new API. I've already created this API here, which is called Test API Verify Emails. If we click here on details, we can see the credentials, which is what we've entered here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is the token we're going to use to perform the verifications. It's always a good idea to create test APIs and limit the number of verifications, okay? Then, in production, you can choose to keep this limited or not, depending on what you want to do. The first thing we're going to look at is how we can perform an individual verification. To do this, we can use what's in the documentation, which is Swagger. Swagger simply simulates the calls that we're going to make. In this case, we're going to make an individual request. Let's expand it. We tell it that we want to test the service and select the service we want to use. In this case, we're going to use an email address so it can verify it for us. We enter the token. Sorry, this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the token we obtained in the previous step. And in the terms section, we enter the email we want to verify. In my case, I'm going to enter my own email address, and we're going to click execute. All right? What this is doing is making a GET request. As you can see here, in just 1 or 2 seconds, it's returning the verification responses, telling me that the email address is correct. So that you can interpret the results of these verifications, what we recommend is that you go to the email verification page. If you scroll down to the bottom in the footer, in the API documentation, which is what we have open here, go to the results guide. And here you'll see all the possible cases of how email addresses should be handled. Basically, the only valid addresses are the ones marked as OK. Then we can have addresses that are accept all or OK for all, which means they accept any type of email. All right? If you want to implement the API in other programming languages, you can easily open and utilize our comprehensive Postman collection. Postman is simply a very convenient and widely used way to structure and organize various API calls. And within this collection, you have the flexibility to choose the specific programming language you want to use for making your requests. All right? This particular aspect refers to individual verifications. For example, a specific and distinct verification we might have embedded within a form. Okay? Before submitting the form, we can verify that email address. What happens if, instead of verifying email addresses individually, I want to verify files? All right? Well, then I have to use this request, the batch request. Okay? In the batch request, all we really have to do is simply expand it, clearly indicate that we definitely want to use it, and then carefully select the specific service we want to thoroughly verify. In this particular case, it's emails, of course. The token is exactly the same as the one we used in the previous case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? It asks us to upload the file we want to verify, which I already have prepared. It's called testfiles.txt. I'm going to show you a bit of the structure of this file. Basically, what we have here is a column where under each row of this column, we have the email addresses that we want to verify. This file could contain many more data fields. It could have names, surnames, phone numbers. What I recommend, for privacy reasons, is that you only include the data that is essential for verification. We delete them anyway, all right? We don't keep a copy, we have privacy policies in place, everything is organized, and the data is always stored encrypted during the verification process. Even so, our recommendation is that you only use the data that is essential for verification. In this case, we're going to tell it that we want to enter the emails that are in the first column. We're going to tell it that we want to receive a notification. It will send us an email once the verification of that file is finished, all right? And we can also specify a callback. That is, if we're using webhooks to trigger another process when the verification is complete, here we can provide a URL so it notifies us that the verification process has finished, all right? We're going to click execute. Here you can see how the call is being made. And what it's returning here is, a verification ID, all right? For us to accurately know that the entire verification process has completely finished, we can then use the dedicated getStatus call. Same thing, we click to try it out. We have to tell the service which file's verification status we want to check. We paste or enter the ID from the verification that we scheduled, and we enter the token for verification again. We click execute, and in this case, it tells us that a total of 3 files have been verified, 3 have been processed, and it shows us the credits that have been deducted during this verification process. All right? It also tells us how we can download that file. All right? If we proceed to open the specific URL that has been provided to us, we will observe that it initiates the download of a particular file. Once this file has been successfully downloaded, we can then proceed to open it. Upon opening, we will be presented with a detailed display showing the verification status for each individual row contained within the file. For instance, in the very first instance, or the initial case presented, the system clearly indicates and informs us that the address in question is indeed a valid address, confirming its authenticity and correctness. In the second, it says it's inconclusive because this domain accepts all email addresses. And in the third row, we have an email that is clearly non-existent, all right? Remember that we can use the getStatus function to check the verification status, okay? Or we can also use the webhook to automate it, all right? If you have more complex workflows, it's really worth using the webhook because you can automate the entire process. If we navigate over to our API and click on View, we will then be able to clearly see the files we've been uploading to the platform. In this particular case, it's this specific file, and we can conveniently download it right here, all right? We can also see a visual preview of those files, okay? Or we can also check the status of the calls, all right? So that's it for email verification, whether individually or in bulk using files. Remember that you can also conveniently upload your files directly to the platform. Or you can effectively utilize integrations with services like Zapier or N8N, or even implement widgets directly to perform essential verifications within various forms. All right? I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.